What is going on, gamers? Avitrix here, and today we're going to go ahead and talk about Death Knight. This is a hero that is in a lot of promotional videos for IGG and Lords Mobile, but how good is the Death Knight really? Well, let's go ahead and go into the hero screen and talk about him. Okay, so here we are. First things first, let's go ahead and talk about the battle skills. He is a cavalry hero, and what he brings to the table is stone production plus 150% once you get him to legendary grade. And again, this is an administration buff, so that means that this is just going to be passive on your account. He doesn't actually have to be your leader for this stone production to be active on your turf. And then once you do send him to battle with your leader, or if he is your leader, you're going to be getting cavalry defense plus 50% and then cavalry max HP plus 50%. So as a free-to-play hero, he is going to be very useful if you're going to be using cavalry in battle. But like I mentioned before, make sure that you know the difference between an administration buff and a logistics buff, which actually tells you right on the bottom there where it's actually going to be activated. Now the next thing I want to talk about is the hero skills. Now the hero skills is very important because of what kind of hero Death Knight is. And Death Knight is considered a tank, but unlike your typical tank, his skills are not meant for him to be taking a lot of damage or like deflecting damage or anything like that. He's more of an offensive tank, and what I mean by that is when you actually take a look at his stats, he has 35,000 health, which is actually more than most tanks out there. The difference is that his defensive stats are really poor. Defense 348, magic defense only 199. When you compare to like the big guy, for instance, you have defense of 755, magic defense of 303, and you have this passives to boot, which is reduces damage taken by 20%. So strictly as a tank, he is not going to be as defensive as you would want a tank to be, but there is one big difference and one skill in particular that makes him very useful. So let's take a look at the first one here, which is Impale. Very straightforward. He does damage in a straight line, and that's pretty much it. It's just a damage technique, which goes with what I was saying earlier. He is more of an offensive tank. He doesn't really have much to actually lower damage. The second skill, though, is where it sets him apart. Resurrect. Now it says revives when killed in battle and increases attack for 10 seconds after reviving. Revives after 5 seconds with 60% HP once per battle and increases attack by 600. So why is this important? Okay, so like we mentioned before, he is a tank that doesn't really have much defensive capabilities. His HP is high, but doesn't really have the means to keep his HP high. So that means that he is going to go down in battle and probably much more frequent than your regular tank. Now where the Resurrect comes into play is that once he does go down, that actually means that when he comes back up, not only are you going to have a tank back in the battle, he is going to be doing a lot more damage than usual because of this buff right here. That is pretty significant. And when you take a look at his passive, Heart of Ice, it says right here, he has a passive that increases his strength by 240. So when you put the Heart of Ice together with Resurrect, you have a tank that, okay, he goes down, that's pretty much what you're expecting. And then when he comes back up, he's going to be dealing a massive amount of damage. That is something to look forward to. And then of course, his ultimate unleashes a chill, damaging damage and inflicting knockback and freeze to nearby enemies in a large area for 3 seconds. So this is more of a control battle type of skill. He freezes enemies, which acts pretty much like a stun, except he actually pushes them back, which is very useful, especially if your heroes start to be kind of clustered and more susceptible to other procs that damage things in maybe in an area. So that's really good to control the battle. But all in all, Death Knight, what he's really good at is taking the initial punch, especially in the Coliseum. If you're going up against a team that does a lot of burst damage right off the bat, and that would include teams with like Black Crow, Trickster, Incinerator. Those are heroes that right off the bat they're going to do a lot of damage. You can use Death Knight to take that damage, go down, come back up, and then continue to fight. Now there's something else that sets Death Knight apart from most tanks out there, and that is the two belts that he has as items, one being the Dragon Belt and the other being the Terror Belt. Now why are they a bit different? Well, if you look at the Terror Belt and the Dragon Belt, at the bottom there they have Life Leech. So this one has Life Leech plus 32 and this one has Life Leech plus 39. And essentially, if you don't know what Life Leech is, we can go over to the attributes, go all the way down and click on Life Leech. So it recovers HP from a portion of damage dealt. Now why is this important? That means that Death Knight has some what I would call self-sustained ability, and when he goes down and he comes back up, remember his strength and his damage is going to be going much higher, and that means that every time he attacks, he is actually going to be stealing some life back. And essentially with his high HP pool, while he's also going to be stealing life back, he's going to become much more harder to take down a second time. And that's why, even though he's an offensive tank, the first go around you're going to have a much easier time actually taking him down compared to the second go around, where he's going to be stealing quite a bit of life back to himself and going to be dealing a lot more damage than usual. Now when you compare Death Knight to other free-to-play heroes, especially cavalry specific heroes, it goes without saying that Roast Knight is absolutely the best cavalry hero for free-to-play, and really Roast Knight can be easily considered the best free-to-play hero overall. So as far as cavalry hero, Roast Knight will be number 1, and then of course you have Child of Light being number 2, because he does bring attack and HP to the battle, which are the two main stats that you want to focus on when you're attacking or defending your turf. Though the third one is a bit more debatable. You can go Night Raven, because unlike Death Knight, he does bring cavalry attack compared to cavalry HP. But the thing is, Death Knight is going to have more uses in other places compared to Night Raven, so people might put more stock on that. And realistically speaking, when you put 30% attack compared to HP plus 50%, they kinda offset. Now I know people might prefer the 30% attack just slightly over the HP plus 50%, but when you think about how useful Death Knight can be in other places, especially Coliseum, I would tend to favor Death Knight a little bit over Night Raven, and in that case I would put Death Knight as the third best cavalry free-to-play hero. Now we've talked a lot about Coliseum, so let's actually go over to the Coliseum and show you one instance where Death Knight is actually very useful, and this is going to be going up against one of the most popular teams you can find anywhere in any kingdom, and let's see how he does. Okay, now this is going to be against the team of Roast Knight, Berserker, Lore Weaver, Grove Guardian, and Witch Doll. This is a very popular team, and remember that Death Knight as a tank is going to be there mainly to go down. You expect him to go down, but once he goes down, then you expect him to come back up and start finishing off your opponent. So let's take a look how this shakes up. So okay, so remember, Death Knight here, any sort of damage that you get initially from him is going to be great. If you even get a proc from him before he goes down, that's even better. But the plan here is always going to be for Death Knight to go down, and that was actually best case scenario right there. As you saw, my Death Knight went down, so quote unquote he's done. But their Berserker also went down, so in a regular battle that just means that you traded a tank for a tank. The exception though is that Death Knight is not done. Remember, he has Resurrect, so now he's going to be coming back up and dealing a ton of damage. So let's go ahead and see this unfold. So like I mentioned, it looks like we've pretty much changed tank for a tank, but that's not the case, because as you see here, Death Knight is back. He's going to be doing a lot more damage, and now we have them on the fence. So there goes their second tank. So now they have no tank against my team that pretty much is completely full of health. So now it's just a matter of just finishing them off. If we can get their healer, it's going to be game over. So there you go, Lore Weaver is down. You see my Roast Knight is kind of on the fence, but it doesn't even matter at this point. Game over. So there you have it, Death Knight. The question was, is he actually good? And it's absolutely, he is good. Now, he's not like one of the top 3 or top 5 free-to-play heroes that I would suggest right off the bat, but he is definitely one of the better heroes that you can focus on for a multiple of things, whether that's attacking castles, Coliseum, even for monster hunting, he could be useful. So keep all of those things in mind. Death Knight is an amazing hero once you get him to legendary grade because of everything that he brings to the table. But the one skill really that sets him apart and makes him special is that Resurrect ability. That's really his bread and butter. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Appreciate you guys for watching, and until later.